Attorney General Janet Reno, President of the National Association of Police Organizations, Tom Scotto, Executive Director of the American Shooting Sports Council, Richard Feldman.
Mr. President, Mr. President, Tom Scotto, Mr. Feldman, and most of all, those we honor today, America's top cops. Good morning and welcome. It is a privilege to stand here today with true heroes, men who put their lives on the line to make sure that we can live in safety. Men and women who all too often pay the ultimate price. It's a privilege for me to be here today with my colleague and friend Ray Kelly, the Undersecretary of the Treasury for Enforcement, a man who is a great law enforcement professional and a wonderful colleague in law enforcement in Washington. Through the hard work of the top cops, through the hard work of law enforcement officials across this country, America is indeed a safer place. Crime is down. According to the FBI, the juvenile violent crime arrest rate dropped by 9.2% in 1996, a total drop of 11.9% since 1994. Violent crime dropped by 6% overall, 9% for murder, 2% for forcible rape, and 7% for robbery. I used to worry that drops in crime were merely a blip on the screen. But now, after these solid decreases, I know these drops are real. These officers that we honor here today are on the front line. Their colleagues are on the front line, and they have made such a difference. And in Washington, this administration has tried to assist in every way possible. Through the President's leadership, the Brady Act was passed, denying firearms to over 250,000 felons, fugitives, and others who are prohibited by law from possessing firearms. He led the passage of the assault weapons ban, which has prevented the sale of semi-automatic weapons which serve no lawful sporting purpose. And your 1994 Crime Act has assured that there are more police officers on the streets than ever before. But we cannot sit back, we cannot rest on our laurels, and we can never forget that behind every crime statistic is a real victim. These statistics are heartening, but they show that we have turned the corner, not that we have won the battle. And we can never, ever let up, not until there are simply no crimes to report. As I read the facts which resulted in the designation of these officers as top cops, I see great men and true heroes. They're from rural towns and large cities, from police departments, federal agencies, or sheriff's departments. These men and women share a common bond of public service, selflessness, and dedication to the rule of law. Today, through the President's hard work, we are entering an unprecedented public-private partnership to prevent tragedies from occurring. Tragedies which claim the lives of children and law enforcement officers alike. Over 80% of all handguns sold in America will be sold with a child safety lock. The winners are all Americans. There are no losers. And let me specially thank Senators Cole, Biden, and Kennedy, and members of Congress Maloney and Schumer for all their efforts over the past few months to secure this effort. But we must also recognize that what we are doing here today won't end all tragedy. Last year, I was proud to be here when the President signed legislation which provides funds for a college education for the survivors, spouse and children of federal law enforcement officers who die in the line of duty. Now today, I am proud to stand here with you as NAPO takes the first step towards expanding this benefit to all state, county, and local law enforcement officers, correctional officers, paramedics, and firefighters. The least we can do, the very least that we can do when a person gives their life in our service, is to make sure that their survivors do not suffer. Now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce you to a man who has done so much for the cause of rank-and-file law enforcement, a man who has been a wise counselor to me and who cares about the plight of the officer on the beat, and who is willing to work with us time after time. Tom Scotto, President of NATO. Haven't seen you since Los Angeles, but it is good to be with you this morning, sir.
Mr. President, Attorney General Reno, Undersecretary Kelly, and honored guest. Today, we pay tribute to the hard work of America's law enforcement officers, and specifically to the 18 recipients of this year's Top Cop Awards. We honor their service, their commitment, and yes, their heroism. From hundreds of candidates, your peers chose you, and you should be proud. Let me also add, Mr. President, that I appreciate what you have done to honor our top cops and make this annual award such a success. But I am even more appreciative of all that you have done to honor police officers every day by helping them do their jobs. You have tipped the scales of justice back in our favor, making sure that we're not outmanned and outgunned by criminals. I am also pleased, that's correct. I am also pleased that you're supporting NAPO's proposal to provide college scholarships to the children of slain state and local public safety officers. Last year, you signed legislation making this benefit available to federal law enforcement, and we appreciate your support in extending this same benefit to the surviving children of state and local public safety officers. Finally, Mr. President, regardless of what others may say in Washington, cops across this country know that you and the Attorney General have done more for law enforcement than anyone else in a long, long time. For your friendship and for your concern, we are extremely grateful. Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to now introduce you to Mr. Richard Feldman, Executive Director of the American Shooting Sports Council. Mr. Feldman?
Good morning. The American Shooting Sports Council is pleased to join you, Mr. President, and these esteemed police heroes being honored here today. They are inspiring examples of the American spirit. I am joined here today by the leaders of the firearms industry, including our chairman, Jay Hansen, and our president, Georgia Nichols, to declare once again our long-standing policy of promoting safe and responsible firearm ownership, storage, and use. Our efforts at educating America about gun safety is one of our nation's great untold success stories. Accidental firearm deaths are at historic lows. We are justifiably proud of this record, but as with any human endeavor, we must always try to do better, and that is why we are here today. We believe devices which enhance safe storage can be useful in continuing to reduce child accidents. Within the coming year, most major handgun manufacturers will institute company policies of providing safety devices with all handguns shipped in the United States. Please do not be fooled into believing that any single safety device by itself is the answer. They are only part of a comprehensive firearm safety program which must address safe use, safe storage, and basic firearm safety awareness. Every American must remember the first rule of firearms safety. Always treat every firearm as if it were loaded. We thank you, Mr. President, for this unique opportunity to stress the importance of firearms safety. In all our discussions with the White House and with Congress, it has become abundantly clear that the issue of firearms safety transcends all politics and personal agendas. Mr. President, we are all Americans, and by our being here today, we demonstrate that there are issues on which we can all agree and work together. And now it is my honor to introduce the President of the United States.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good morning. Madam Attorney General, Tom Scotto, Bob Scully, the Executive Director of NAPO, and the other officers, Ray Kelly, and Mr. Feldman, and the other members of your organization who are here. I want to thank the previous speakers for their comments and, more importantly, for the work they have done to bring us to this day. I'm delighted to welcome you to the White House to once again honor our nation's courageous top cops and to emphasize the importance of the breakthrough we are announcing today in our efforts to protect children from gun violence. 4.5 years ago, we committed ourselves as an administration to take back our streets from crime and violence. We put in place a comprehensive plan based on what law enforcement officers were already trying to do in communities all across America. To put 100,000 new community police officers on our streets, to put tough new penalties on our books, to steer our young people away from crime and gangs and guns, and to keep guns out of the hands of criminals. We've made real progress. Just last week, as the Attorney General said, we learned our nation's murder rate has fallen to the lowest point in more than a generation. And for the 5th year in a row, violent crime and property crime have dropped nationwide. These are encouraging trends, and it is clear what is working. One big reason we're turning back the tide of crime is because we're blessed with the kind of outstanding police officers who are standing with me today. Every year I look forward to meeting with the winners of the nation's Top Cop Awards. NAPO does a great job in picking these people for what they have done. It's an honor to shake hands and look into the eyes of true American heroes. Nominated by their fellow officers, selected from among hundreds of worthy nominees, the top cops assembled here today represent America's finest. To say that their courage and devotion has gone beyond the call of duty is indeed an understatement. From rescuing wounded detention officers during a brutal prison riot, to saving hundreds of plant workers under threat from a deranged sniper, you have risked your lives to protect ours. On behalf of a grateful and admiring nation, I say thank you and congratulations to our top cops and to their families. During my time in office, one of the things we've tried to do to work with law enforcement is to help to protect our children from the horror of accidental deaths from unlocked guns. Communities all across our nation have suffered devastating losses when a child playing with a parent's gun accidentally takes the life of a brother, a sister, or a playmate. According to a recent study released by the Justice Department, 22 million privately owned handguns are kept both loaded and unlocked, which helps to explain why every year about 1,500 children are treated in hospital emergency rooms for unintentional gun injuries. In 1994 alone, nearly 200 children died from accidental gunshot wounds. In March, I directed that guns issued to all federal law enforcement officials, including the FBI, the ATF, the DEA, and customs agents, be equipped with child safety locks. And by next week, every agency will have fully complied. When I announced this policy, I said if it's good enough for law enforcement, it should be good enough for all our citizens. Today, because of the voluntary action of the firearms industry, millions of our citizens will receive this protection. I'm pleased to announce that 8 of the largest handgun manufacturers will now provide child safety devices with every new handgun they sell. This will affect 8 of 10 handguns made in America, and it will save many young lives. We have today with us leaders from these 8 companies: Smith & Wesson, Glock, Beretta, Taurus Firearms, Hetler & Koch, H&R 1871, SIG Arms, and O.F. Mossberg & Sons. I'd like to ask them to stand so that we can thank them for their commitment. Please stand up. Thank you very much for your example and your leadership. I hope soon our other handgun makers will follow your lead. As is well known, this administration and the gun industry from time to time have stood on different sides of various issues: the Brady Law, the assault weapons ban, and there may be other disagreements in the future. But today, as has already been said by your representative, today we stand together and stand with the law enforcement community to do what we all know is right for our children. I should add, as the Attorney General has already said, there are many members of Congress who have worked with us to advance this issue of child safety locks, and I want to thank them as well. Now we must work together to do more to protect our children from the scourge of violent crime, and especially from crimes committed by other young people. This is now my highest law enforcement priority. We must provide for more prosecutors and probation officers, tougher penalties, and also better gang prevention efforts, including after-school programs, so that these young people have something to say yes to and some way of staying out of trouble. And we should prohibit violent teenagers from buying guns once they become adults. The same prescriptions of the Brady Law should apply to them. We also, of course, will never be able to supplant the work that must be done by parents in working hard to teach their children that no matter how hard it is, they must do the right thing and reject the wrong course. For too many years, our people feared that crime would always grow and grow, that nothing could be done to stem lawlessness and violence. But working together, police and parents, public officials and responsible industry leaders, we are making a difference in the lives of our families. I especially want to thank again the top cops for their truly heroic contributions. And through them, I thank all the others who might well have been here today, but who still do their jobs every day and also deserve our thanks in every community in this country. Because of that kind of bravery every day, America is moving forward into a new century with safer streets and much, much greater peace of mind. Thank you very much, and God bless you.